The Love Life and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. If you know what to do, but can't figure out why you're just not doing it, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to think and eat like a normal eater, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. Hi, welcome to episode 91 of the Love Life and Lose Weight podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to continue to lose weight through the holidays and still enjoy yourself. I know it sounds like it's impossible, but actually, by the time you're done listening to this podcast, you're going to understand why going into a season where you get to enjoy some of your favorite foods, probably if you're anything like me, is the best time to experiment with eating just a little bit less so that you can continue to lose weight. So many of us think that because we like something, it means that we're compelled to eat more. But this is just a trick of conditioning, the conditioning that society and our parents and our families have all told us is true. But it doesn't mean that it is true. So I want to ask you a question. Why do you think it's impossible to keep losing weight through the holidays and still enjoy yourself? If you can, if you're not like driving or doing something else as you're listening, just jot down what your answer is. Why is it hard for you or seemingly impossible for you to keep losing weight over the holidays? You can pause and then come back when you're ready. Okay, I want you to go back and we're going to look at this answer in just a few minutes by the time I'm done telling you my theory about things. And then you can relook at your answer and we can change how you think about things. So, most women, if you agree that it's hard to think about losing weight during the holidays, most women that I coach would say, agree with you and say, no way. The holidays are the danger zone. There's food everywhere, there's travel, there's stress. And everyone around you seems to be saying, like, go ahead, indulge, like, forget about your diet and all this stuff. You can start again in January. That kind of exception thinking that I talked to you about a couple of podcasts ago start to come up when we buy into this whole idea of this is the only time when I get to enjoy myself and enjoy my food and these special foods, and I don't get them very often. But if you've been with me for a while and you've been practicing permission-based eating, these thoughts aren't true because hopefully you have been all year enjoying your seasonal favorites of your food. In the summertime, that might have looked like strawberry shortcake and fresh fruit and fresh vegetables from the farmer's market, fresh cuts of meat all year round. Same with spring. And here we are in fall, heading into Thanksgiving in just a couple of weeks here. And, you know, it's tempting to switch back your brain into this idea of restriction around food that you've been restricted all year. But for most of my clients, this does still happen, even though every week we make sure that we plan a few of your more indulgent foods and we allow for overeats as part of how you lose weight. Here's where you want to come in with intentional thinking, and you might even want to journal around this first before you do any specific work around how to continue losing weight through the holidays. And just remind yourself that you are practicing permission based eating and you are practicing sustainable weight management, which means you're just creating a slight caloric deficit by eating to 70 to 75% full. And you're planning for a certain number of overeats per week that you don't go over. And that blueprint helps you to lose fat and maybe even gain muscle if that's part of your goals too. And hopefully you've found your correct blueprint that I've talked to you about creating. And so when your brain comes in during this time of year talking about like diet nonsense and describing your food lifestyle in a way that you don't even recognize, you really do need to think intentionally and respond intentionally to this old, tired script about how hard things are going to be. The truth is, if you have been practicing permission-based eating, the fall season that includes the holidays and just the beginning of the winter, by the time we're in New Year's, right? Is just another extension of the same approach to permission based eating that you've been practicing all year. There of course, probably for most of us, several special eating occasions, starting with Thanksgiving. And depending what holidays you celebrate, maybe a few more, a few parties in there, but those are really limited in number. And certainly we can plan for them ahead of time, as I've coached you through. So again, just set yourself up to tell your brain, we know how to do this. And just because it says holidays and the food looks specifically different for a few of these special eating opportunities or meals or parties doesn't mean that how you eat changes fundamentally. You're going to be using your same tools. So that's the first part. Every year I would do this as well. Please know that as your coach, I struggled with all the same things that you are probably thinking about and contemplating right now. Um, and I don't want you to set yourself up for a failure. I want you to go through the holidays feeling slightly different. And this does not have to be complicated at all. You don't need to do anything heroic. You don't need to spend hours on this. It's number one, a free reframing. And number two, it's a specific set of tools for how you stay mindful with your eating and you use your blueprint that we just talked about. Okay. That's really all it is. I want you to go through the end of the year staying in integrity with your goals. If you've decided that you're not losing weight anymore through the holidays, I really want you to like your reason. If you don't like your reason and there's a part of inner you who really does want to keep going with your goals, there's no reason why you can't. I think slight incremental level ups, if you haven't been losing, is probably all it takes for you to start losing again, even through the holidays. This isn't anything that is too difficult to do. And in fact, even if you just decide you want to maintain through the holidays, whereas before in years past, it's always been a gain of 5 or more pounds, that too would represent a huge relative improvement to how you've been doing the holidays before. And I want you to look at that as a win and a level up to how you do things. So again, this is, I don't coach each one of you, so I don't know where you're at. So you're going to have to figure out, how have I been doing it? Have I been able to stay with my goals through the holidays? If you have, just rinse and repeat what you've been doing, of course. And if you haven't, maybe this year you just start with maintaining. There is a blueprint for number of overeats to maintain, which would just be like probably for most of you, one or two extra overeats from the number of overeats you have to lose fat each week. So it's just a slight shift in numbers. And all you have to do is use your planner to plan when you will have these overeats. Maybe you want to reserve one or two of them for in the moment decisions to overeat, but I do encourage you to plan, especially for parties and things ahead of time so that you can adjust ahead of that special occasion. Let's say you have a Christmas party. I have one like mid-December. And I always put down on a party to overeat because even though I don't really know what's going to be served, sometimes I do like to take the option to have a little bit more food during a holiday party if I want to. And a lot of times when I plan like this to overeat, I don't end up overeating. And I don't feel like, I held back on any kind of pleasure. It's sort of like It's another form of permission-based eating. When we feel like we can't overeat, then we kind of want to overeat. It's a little bit of this push-pull that we have with ourselves and how we boss ourselves around. So this is why planning overeats is so powerful. Okay. So the key, besides your blueprint, right, for a number of overeats and what percentage to full are you eating to, is really focusing when you're eating on eating to 70 to 75% full. Um, and I have talked to you all about how to do this. Eating a little bit less so that you can start to lose weight is going to feel hard. And that's the truth. It's supposed to. You're not doing anything wrong if you're eating a little bit less and trying to start to lose weight where you haven't been before. Like, let's say you've just been maintaining. Maybe your goal has been to lose weight, but you really haven't been losing weight. This is where a lot of people find themselves right now in November. So you're going to eat a little bit less. Maybe just a few bites less at each meal. You're trying to find that 70 to 75% full, and it's going to feel emotionally unsatisfying. You might actually have a thought, I think this is 70 to 75% full. That's probably where you need to stop. And it will feel unsatisfying because when we're used to eating until 80 to 85% or any amount more than that, we've paired the sensation of your stomach being that much more relatively full of a volume of food with safety, comfort, and reward. I'm going to say that one more time. When we're used to eating until we're relatively more full than what we're eating now, our brains will have paired that volume of fullness that represents a little bit more than what you're eating now with safety, comfort, and reward. So when you stop at a few bites earlier to have a little bit less in your stomach, your physical body will be fine. You don't have physical hunger anymore, right? You can feel that there's a mass of food in your stomach, which will fuel you likely until your next meal. But your brain, your mental state will kind of throw up some resistance. It might even have a little temper tantrum. You might even feel a little bit of fear or uncertainty around stopping, the idea of stopping when you're contemplating stopping. And that doesn't mean anything is wrong. It's just your brain relearning what enough feels like. The discomfort that you feel after a smaller meal isn't physical hunger. It's simply the absence of the overstimulation that you're used to acclimating to, a point of relative more fullness. So, in the absence of that relative more fullness, it's a lack of stimulation, and your brain's job is to sort of set off some alarm bells to let you know it's less food. That's what we want. That's actually what we're looking for. Now, I'm not saying that you're physically still hungry, because that would represent somewhere 50% full or even less, right? You're eating just a few bites less than what you're used to eating. It will feel mentally unsatisfying, but physically, you will not be hungry. And you can feel that you have some massive food in your stomach, but generally, there is not stretching of the stomach. It would be equivalent to looking at a water balloon that you have filled about 70 to 75% full with water. So there's about, 30 to 25 to 30% of the space in the water balloon does not have water in it, where the water is an analogy for the food in your stomach. You see, everybody can kind of get this mental picture. So your job isn't to push through this, it's to notice this mental discomfort with eating a little bit less, and notice it with compassion. And tell yourself, using your manager brain, it's okay. It's safe to stop here. In a few minutes, I may not feel this uncomfortable. I'm just not used to stopping here. Of course, it feels awkward. And so you just talk yourself through it. The 70 to 75% full practice requires training your system. And there's many parts of the system that have to acclimate to this. When I talk about eating less, what I really mean is stopping at the 70 to 75% full. It's an amount that's relatively less than what you've been eating to. So, of course, if you've been eating to 90% full or even 100% full, then stopping at 85% full, right, might still mean that you are still gaining a little bit of weight, but maybe it's much less than what you've been gaining. And that will still feel uncomfortable. You see, if you've been eating for maintenance, that means you've been eating to about 80% full. We know that 80% full is equated with maintaining your weight. So if you're stopping at 70% full now, it will feel a little bit uncomfortable mentally, but physically it doesn't bear it out, right? Your stomach, if you ask the bouncer of your stomach, do you have enough food? The bouncer of your stomach will probably say yes. The mind will say, no, let's have a little bit more, or well, I don't want to stop here, just a few more bites. So, and that's just your brain that's evolved over millions of years of human evolution to train human behavior to eat about what you've been eating. But for us, those of us here listening who want to lose weight, we have to be able to override this primal system that your brain operates on and override that alarm bell of discomfort to eating a little bit less than what you've been eating to by talking yourself through it, you going into the physical space of the stomach, checking with your stomach and saying, this feels mentally uncomfortable, but physically, I have enough food. I think I can make it. And, if you're not sure, you get to tell yourself, well, if I get hungry, I can always eat. And that is true. The way that I teach sustainable weight management is whenever you are physically hungry, you always are able to eat. Always. We never push past physical hunger in sustainable weight management. Okay. So 70 to 75% full is where most of us will be targeting. It's the sweet spot where you're not hungry anymore. You're breathing easily. You could go for a walk easily. And there's still, 25 to 30% of space left in your stomach without food in it. And the truth is, if you stop here and then you check on your hunger about an hour later, you're still completely satisfied. You are not hungry. Okay. Your brain might tell you you might be, but you need to check this. Okay. So the feeling of I should have eaten more is normal. If you're stopping at 70 to 75% full, you'll hear that thought. That's normal. Doesn't mean it's true. Give it 10 minutes. Sometimes for some of us with a lot of leptin resistance, you might need 20 minutes or even 30 minutes. Try to go do something else. I don't know, do some chores or do some tasks and then come back. Sometimes I like to just leave my plate. That gives my brain some security that it's right there. Nothing happened to it. If I really want to come back, if I'm still hungry, if I am still hungry, I can always have more of my meal. You might be surprised to know that when you are eating some of your favorite foods, it actually works really well for you to try to eat a little bit less. And this is where the story comes in that I challenged you about at the beginning of the episode. I said, why do you think that the holidays are the hardest time to eat a little bit less? And probably most of you said yes, but here's why that is probably not true. If you stop and really be present with some of your favorite foods over the holidays, if you're mindful, if you're not distracted by TV, if you're not checking out, if you're not, getting distracted by conversations or other things going on, and you really give yourself the gift of enjoying your food, being present with your food, fully tasting your food. Just enjoying like for me, pumpkin pie, right? I love pumpkin pie. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, but I do. And I think if I had it all year long, I probably wouldn't like it. But because I know I have it a few times in November, I just enjoy the texture. I enjoy the flavor. I enjoy the spices. I enjoy the sweetness. It reminds me of growing up. My mom always made pumpkin pie. I noticed like a big slice. I don't like eating too much of it. It's the kind of concentrated flavor and sweetness where I've actually learned that a smaller slice, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, I usually have it for breakfast, is like the perfect amount for me. In fact, I've learned through eating a little bit less over many holiday seasons now that I don't enjoy dessert when I try to have it on top of my meal. So, because that represents overeating to me. I don't like to have so little bit of meal that I'll go over 80% full if I have dessert too. So, I like to eat to 70 to 75% full for my main meal. And then I wait a few hours until I get slightly hungry. And then I just have a dessert meal afterward. So in my family, we tend to have, at least for Thanksgiving, like mid-afternoon. And then I have my dessert meal later in the evening. And that's kind of like just a sweet meal for me. And I don't need much of it. And I'm super satisfied. So that's what I've learned works for me. Be brave enough to shake things up. And if you want to try that, just take your dessert home with you if you're going to, want to have it for a separate meal at a separate time. You can always do that. And this way you get to have more of like the dinner meal foods to 70, 75% full or even 80% full if you're trying to maintain. Okay. And of course, your Thanksgiving meal can be a planned overeat where you go to, I don't know, whatever you go to, 85% full. Some of you go to 90. It just depends. Okay. Make sure that you are using my planner. There's a worksheet in there called How to Eat 6 Steps for How to Eat Less and Feel Satisfied. And I give you the exact 6 steps to practice this with. You could do this with some of your favorite foods. I did this with apple pie 2 falls ago, and I really learned what satisfied is. And I also really was mindful with different kinds of apple pie. I did this like probably 4 or 5 times in the month. And then I also learned who carries like my favorite apple pie, because there's nothing worse than having a dessert that's not really made the way that you like it. So I kind of killed two birds with one stone. I learned how to enjoy my one of my favorite foods and eat a little bit less of it. And I saw that I didn't need to eat as much, which broke that idea that I talked about at the beginning, which is my favorite foods automatically cause me to eat more. And what I'm saying is, if you're really present with some of your favorite foods, you might be surprised that the bliss point of that food, where you've had the right amount and you've been present and mindful with each bite, might actually be eating less of it gives you the most enjoyment. I don't know what's true for you. All I know is if you haven't tried this in an intentional way, that's your work to do. Hey, it's Heather. Let's pause here for a second because I want to tell you something important. I know you don't need more willpower. You need a better system. That's why I created the Follow Through Planner. It's a digital planner designed for women like you who are ready to get out of all or nothing mindset, diet mentality, and start making real sustainable progress through the work on habit change. Inside the Follow Through Digital Planner, you'll find the tools that I use with my coaching clients to help you plan your week, your days, and stay focused on what matters and really get in practice actually following through without the guilt or burnout. If you're curious about what's inside the Follow Through Planner, visit hbeardsley.com/planner. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/planner to learn more. And if you sign up to be a VIP subscriber, you get 15% off. Okay, so use the planner, use the worksheet in the planner. If you don't have my planner, the brand new 2026 planner is coming out. There is a special beginning on Thursday, the Thursday of Thanksgiving at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You have to be on my email list to get the reminder to come and buy your 2026 planner. It's a great time to buy it at the end of November because you can spend all of December sort of going through the program information and learning about how I teach sustainable weight management. You can set up your planner in a lot of ways and get familiar with it. And if you purchase during the Black Friday week, you get to attend a Set Up Your Planner special group coaching call with me. And I'll go through the different sections of the planner and we'll pre-fill out your plan for January. We'll plan for your winter season, which starts on the winter solstice. It's right around the 21st of December, I believe. There's another meeting for that. And it's just nice to kind of hit the new year with your planning like in place and everything's ready to go so that on January 1st, all you need to do is just fill out your daily plan and you're good to go. Okay, so take advantage of that if that interests you. So here's your homework for the week. Your follow through challenge is to pick one meal each day to practice stopping at an amount that is relatively less than what you've been eating at if you're not getting results. Okay. So you would need to be eating a little bit less if you're not getting the results. If you are already getting results, you can still do this. You'll just experiment with the steps to become even more familiar and automatic with them. But for most of you, this will be targeting 70 to 75% full. And you're going to, when you find that what that is, using the 6 steps in the planner, you're going to ask yourself, am I still hungry? Can I breathe comfortably? How does my body feel? And how did I enjoy eating this food at this meal to 70 to 75% full? And write what your, honest reflections are on this. And if you have any comments or want any coaching around this, if you have any trouble, come and visit me on Instagram. You can find me at Thrive in Midlife and you can DM me or just comment on any post and I'll see it. Okay. I'm happy to engage with you and help you out if I can. Okay. You might notice as you practice over the next week your challenge that you feel a little bit lighter and more energetic after meals when you eat a little bit less to 70 to 75% full, that your hunger cues return at more predictable times when you are consistently stopping at 70 to 75% full. Your evening cravings will start to fade when you are eating just a little bit less. And this is because we're really like we're really showing ourselves that eating a little bit less can feel physically satisfying even if our brain is a little uncomfortable. And this is how you can go through the holidays, continuing to meet your weight goals, your weight management goals. For most of us, that's losing fat, even through the holidays. And you get to feel like autonomous over food too, which is what I want for all of you. And the beauty of getting into the holidays is that, you're often eating things that you really enjoy. And isn't it going to be nice this season, this holiday season, to enjoy those foods, to 70 to 75% full and not be beating yourself up because your default is to overeat them all the time. This will create such a nice, friendly relationship between you and this food where the food doesn't feel like it has this power to dysregulate how you want to eat and dysregulate your goals around food. Okay? So try the follow through challenge with stopping at 70 to 75% full, one meal each day, and let me know how you find it. Okay? Don't forget about the follow through planner going on sale, significant discounts. It's only going to be discounted once this 1 week before the beginning of the year. So if you're going to get the planner, make sure you get it then. I really hope you love it. I put so much of my heart and soul into making it even better than it was when it came out in the summer. And those of you who have the academic year planner, you're good to go through next July and you can keep using that. And just know, though, that I'm not going to be coming out with academic year planners anymore. I think it's just easier to go to calendar year planners. So whenever you're ready to buy the 2026 planner, even if that's halfway through 2026, it will be there for you. Okay. So thanks for listening. I wish you the best holiday season and stay focused, and so long. Hey, if this episode resonated for you, then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/subscribe and become a VIP subscriber. You'll learn how to work with me. You'll get 2 free gifts, access to exclusive VIP content, and get a discount on the digital follow-through planner.